On August 1st, 2025, Gaza crossed a line no nation could ignore. While ceasefire negotiations were reaching a breaking point in Cairo, Hamas suddenly released a horrifying video. 2 Israeli hostages so emaciated their ribs protruded, gasping for air, chained to the floor of a pitch-black basement. One of them collapsed mid-recording. This was no longer politics. This was pure psychological warfare. Just hours later, another provocation ignited fury. 3 humanitarian aid trucks loaded with food and medicine for Gaza's civilians were ambushed. The drivers were executed in cold blood, the supplies stolen. An Israeli soldier escorting the convoy was burned alive inside his armored vehicle, the gruesome footage instantly spreading on Telegram. For Israel, this was the breaking point. An emergency session was convened in Tel Aviv. Military and intelligence leaders spoke with grim clarity. We are no longer negotiating with a political organization. We are facing barbarism. By midnight, the Israeli Prime Minister issued an unprecedented order launch, a full-scale rescue mission and retaliatory strike. Codename Steel Light. 2:15 a.m. August 2nd. Gaza's skies were quiet, but just 100 feet above ground. 85 Israeli reconnaissance drones silently slipped across the border, skimming low to evade radar moving like phantoms. Within 40 minutes, high-resolution thermal scans confirmed the target a reinforced basement beneath a school in Khan Yunis, where 50 starving hostages were held surrounded by hundreds of civilian shields. At that exact moment, 160 AI-guided Israeli attack drones unleashed their payloads. The targets 5 of Hamas's most critical military compounds. Each strike was timed precisely 8 seconds apart, enough to blind jam and paralyze Gaza's defenses before they knew where the assault came from. Meanwhile, 100 armored vehicles carrying 980 elite commandos, the sharpest blades of the IDF Sayeret Matkal Shayetet 13 Egos, rolled toward Rafah. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were trained to storm into hell itself, to rip hostages from captivity under relentless fire. 3:48 a.m. The first armored vehicle halted at a dry irrigation ditch less than 600 meters from the target. Faces painted black commandos slipped like shadows through the ruins on Gaza's southern edge. They had just 4 minutes to breach, neutralize the guards, rescue the captives, and vanish before Hamas could react. Inside the underground bunker, the air was thick with rot and despair. 50 hostages, many unable to stand, trembled with hunger and thirst. They looked less like prisoners than breathing skeletons. The mission was no longer simply a rescue. It was pulling human beings out of hell. But the darkness hid danger. As Unit 217 closed in on the entrance, a Hamas guard crouched behind a water tank caught a glint of reflected light from a rifle scope. He froze, then yanked up his weapon. The metallic click of a chambered round sliced through the night. One shot could destroy the mission. An Israeli sniper fired first. The suppressed round tore through the guard's skull, but his AK slipped from his hands, crashing onto the concrete floor. The metallic clang echoed through the bunker. Gaza seemed to hold its breath. Would the mission be blown before it even began? Would the drones and micro-weapons be enough to shield the commandos? Or would Operation Steel Light spiral into an unprecedented bloodbath? At that moment, the fate of the Middle East balanced on a knife's edge, and the storm had only just begun. In the blink of an eye, the narrow underground staircase erupted with gunfire. Hamas reinforcements burst in from a side tunnel, screaming and spraying bullets wildly, but they had stumbled into a death trap without realizing it. Flashbang grenades exploded, blinding white light tearing through the darkness, the deafening blasts leaving militants stunned. Frangible rounds shattered against concrete walls, spraying dust and shrapnel. The suffocating space turned into a slaughterhouse. In just 93 seconds, 14 Hamas fighters were cut down, many never even pulling their triggers. 3 Israeli commandos were hit, one gravely wounded, blood soaking through his armor. Yet the strike team pressed on without hesitation. When the iron door was finally blown open, emaciated hostages, gaunt, trembling, starving, were dragged out of the darkness. This was no mere rescue. This was a fight to rip life back from the jaws of death. Outside engines roared. Hamas technical vehicles armed with heavy DSHK machine guns surged forward, laying down sweeping fire. But above them, 11 loitering Israeli suicide drones were already waiting. Each one dove like a meteor. One slammed directly into a truck carrying a recoilless rifle team, igniting a roaring fireball. Another plunged into a communications hub, severing Hamas command links in the sector. In just 7 minutes, more than 40 Hamas fighters were dead or wounded. The entire compound was reduced to rubble. Under the cover of smoke and flares, Israeli commandos hustled hostages into 3 armored convoys moving in tight formation. Overhead, drones escorted them, scanning for threats, striking at anything that moved. Inside the vehicles, combat medics worked frantically. The weakest hostages were strapped to stretchers, IV lines inserted as the vehicles jolted over debris. A 16-year-old girl who had lost 22 pounds during captivity was barely conscious when loaded onto an APC. By 4:39 a.m., the target zone was cleared. At 4:45, encrypted IDF comms crackled in the earpieces. The package is secure. Moving to phase 2. The hostages were alive. For the first time in weeks, Israel had seized something back, not only lives, but control. But the nightmare wasn't over. At 5:00 a.m., just 15 minutes after the last convoy rolled out of Khan, Yunus Phase 2 was unleashed. No more secrecy, no more warnings, no negotiations, only firepower. From the southern skies, more than 60 drones armed with thermobaric warheads descended like an iron rain. Their targets: Hamas's central command hub, the main weapons depot in Jabalia, a fuel stockpile in Rafah, and a staging ground in Deir al-Balah. Each strike wave lasted exactly 12 seconds, creating a domino effect of chaos and paralysis. The main command center, buried 30 feet underground, was annihilated by a GBU-72 thermobaric bomb dropped from a stealth drone. The underground blast ballooned into a fireball hotter than 400 degrees, incinerating everything inside. 27 senior Hamas officers, including 2 bomb makers and a logistics chief, were wiped out instantly. At the same moment, 14 suicide drones struck a Hamas barracks, where nearly 200 militants had regrouped after the failed hostage defense. Within seconds, more than 130 were burned alive. The survivors scattered into alleys, only to be hunted down by loitering IDF drones equipped with AI facial recognition. No one escaped. In Rafah, a hidden fuel depot feeding Gaza's rocket program was shattered by bunker-busting drones. The blast lit up the night sky, visible all the way to Ashkelon. Temperatures at ground zero topped 2,200 degrees, triggering secondary explosions that burned for 19 minutes, consuming adjacent weapons stockpiles. Meanwhile, offshore in the Mediterranean, Israeli warships launched precision missiles that flattened 5 Hamas radar and jamming stations. In less than 6 minutes, Gaza's eyes and ears went dark. The bombardment struck with the rhythm of a colossal machine. Every 42 seconds, a new drone either dove into a target or repositioned. Over 100 IDF drones filled the skies at once, all orchestrated by a quantum-encrypted battlefield AI. It jammed Hamas communications while boosting Israeli strike accuracy to 93%. Inside Gaza, confusion turned to panic. No orders, no fuel, no command structure. Fighters stumbled like shadows in chaos. Their radios were spoofed, feeding them false coordinates and fake commands. Units ran in circles, rushing to reinforce buildings already leveled. This wasn't war anymore. It was collapse. By 6:00 a.m., Gaza's defenses had crumbled on all four fronts. Hamas leadership vanished from the map, either dead in bunkers or scattered in hiding. The message from Israel was now unmistakable, written in fire across Gaza's skyline: never test our red lines again. As dawn broke over Gaza, plumes of smoke still billowed from massive craters. The night was over, but what remained was only devastation. Command networks erased, arsenals reduced to ash, and hundreds of Hamas fighters lying dead. Israel had not only rescued its hostages, it had sent a chilling message: every act of barbarism would be answered with firepower, unlike anything seen before. But this was only the beginning. The bigger question remained: could Hamas ever recover from this blow? Or was this the end of a movement that had terrorized the region for decades? And most crucial of all, what would the Middle East look like once the next wave of retaliation began?